Ciao guys. I've been looking for this dream that I had back in 2003 for like a long time, and I didn't want to say anything about it because I couldn't find the original the document that I wrote up about it. But we're moving, and I found our old computer, and I was about to wipe it, and all of a sudden I had this feeling I better look at what's on it, and sure enough, here's this dream. So I had this dream back in 2003, and I felt it was really significant at the time because I really felt like it was a dream from God because, well, you'll find out. So I'm going to go through the dream, and I feel like it is a word for the day. In this dream, there was like a huge highway, and there was a man stranded by the side of the road, and it was like his car had broken down. So I felt led to help this man. And actually, he was telling me he was a bridegroom, and he was going to a wedding, and his bride was waiting on him. So I was more than happy to assist him in his time of need. So there was this motorcycle there, but it wasn't mine. But anyway, I just hopped on it and I drove him, and he rode behind me. And for the record, I've never driven a motorcycle. So I guess my husband was somewhere in the vicinity because it seemed like I tried to reassure them everything was going to be okay. But anyway, off we went. So we were going down this huge major street, and it seemed to be one way. And we were going the opposite way. We were going against traffic. And at first, there really was no problem for us going this way. It was a huge road. The way was easy. However, soon the road became blocked in places, like obstacles were in the way. And I found myself driving around them. So I'm reading this, just so you know. Then they were too numerous. In fact, there were more things in the road than there were people going along the road. And it became impossible to drive. So then we were walking. At this point, though, although I know that he was with me, the passenger, I don't recall seeing him again. And as we walked along, I got more and more angry. People were just putting their junk in the road. A lot of it was junk, and before I knew it, the road was so small and so narrow, it was like an alley. And even the houses now were facing away from the road rather than facing it. The neighborhood had become slum-like with junk everywhere. Neglect was rampant. And at a point just shy to the end of the road, I realized that, hey, not everything could be labeled junk. Some of it was actually nice. There was a section, there were neatly stacked pots and pans, and I could tell that people were really proud of their collection of junk, but they were just storing the things in the road or the alley. And at the sight of these pots and pans, I became really angry, and I began kicking them. And I was like, don't these people know this is a road? And a little girl came out of the house, and she asked me, what are you doing? Those are my mom's. And I said, go back and tell her this is a road, not an alley, not a storage place. I told her, people have to use this road. So right after that, I was kind of concerned, like, what had I done to this person's property? What was going to happen? And but then I became focused on a house at the end of the road, and it was dilapidated. There were other houses, but I only focused on this one. I say that I feel like that there was a we, but I was the only person that I saw as I walked up to the front door. The first thing I noticed that the house was divided. It was one house, one open room, but there were two sets of people inside the house, each on different sides or different wings of the house. So I went immediately to the people on the right, and the people were old, poor, and unhappy. I asked them for something, but I can't remember what it was I asked of them. It was like something they should have had, but they just said they didn't have anything. They had nothing, they told me. I asked them if they just had a picture of the something from their past, but they were unwilling to even move from their chairs to make sure they had nothing, and they were not nice about it. So I walked to the other side of the house. Again, the same type of people, same attitude. I asked the same question, and at first I got the same reply. Then I asked for the picture, And one of the people suddenly thought they might have had a picture of the something, that maybe from the past they could resurrect or find that old feeling. And I think it's interesting that it kind of turned into like a feeling. So they went outside to a shed outside of the house to look. So while we waited, I asked the people if they had anything to eat. They replied that they didn't. So, however, with the admission of that first person, there was kind of a subtle change in their attitude, like they had some hope, you know. So I looked out the window, and I said, "Isn't that some kind of vegetable bearing plant out there in your yard I see growing?" And some people jumped up and looked out the window, and they ran outside to see, and sure enough, it was. And this feeling of joy was coming into that side of the house. And I said, "Look, isn't that tall weed, you thought it was a weed, instead it's a corn plant?" And it was. And the person who was looking at it commented there was no corn on the plant. I said, "Look closely." And as he began pulling the plant open, deep inside there was corn. People cheered as he began harvesting it. And after he got the first small cob out, he threw the rest of the top of the plant aside. But I went over and picked it up, and I said, "Be careful," and showed him he hadn't looked deeply enough, and there was more corn in there. And as I was helping them with the corn and they were about to cook it, I stopped them and I said, "Take a part of what you've harvested and plant it for a later time." So I wasn't sure how to get the best corn seeds from the cob, but I remember I wanted to ask my husband about that. So prior to the end, I looked in the shed for the person who was gone in the beginning for the picture, and there they were, looking 20 years younger, feeling 20 years younger, trying on something that I'd asked about, and they were all excited. So right before I left the house, the right side of the house had come over closer and started talking to the left side. So there was this dialogue, and they were those other people had been watching the transformation, and they were interested in knowing more. And I could see that the house was becoming one, and like even the inside of the house had become better looking, like the things that were shabby were becoming new. So that was the end of the dream. So immediately when I woke up, and again, I had written all this out, I understood some of the significance of the hope and the harvest. I understood that people need hope and faith, and that often their harvest was right in the front yard, but people were just sitting in the house feeling sorry for themselves. So the rest came in bit by bit. Obviously, the stranded man was Jesus. So I knew that immediately whenever I woke up. I was like, that was Jesus. I don't know why he was stranded, but he needs us to get to the rest of the world. He needs us to get to the bride, to get the bride ready. So obviously he's coming to get his bride. He knows she's waiting on him. And that road that we were on is the road to heaven. It is a one-way road because, well, it is. But if you go back far enough, people don't even know there's a road to heaven. They have placed their things in higher regard and have relegated Christianity as junk. So I was at a place where I knew well enough about the road. It was a big 4-lane road when I saw Jesus at the side of it, and we began our journey backward. So I don't think he disappeared. I felt like he was with me, like spiritually. I knew he was there, but I didn't see him. So when we came to the road, we come to the road as an alley. What I didn't mention is that I could tell that there were other roads that people were using in their daily lives, but they weren't of any concern to me. The state of the houses and the people, you know, with regard to this road reflect their lack of Christ in their lives, like living their daily lives. They aren't going to Christ for anything. You know, they might consider themselves Christian, but they are not, connecting with God. So, and that road, leads to, that is the road to heaven. And that's where we grow in Christ. So anyway, at the time that I wrote this, I said I thought maybe the house was composed of Gentiles and Jews. And I felt like I could have been wrong about that. Right now, I see it as it could be the divided, any divided house. It could be divided America at this point. There was rejection from the right side and eventual acceptance on the left. Faith and hope followed, and that drew people into, those other people. The people on the left began to feel joy and youth, and blessings started to flow, and the planting of the seed and harvest. It's time for people to begin to go get their harvest. They planted these seeds in the beginning, and they have just been sitting on them and not pulling in that harvest. They think, oh, I don't have anything, or I don't have any hope, or but they don't realize that that there is power in Jesus and faith in him. So I really don't know why I didn't finish out the dream with, Jesus had said he wanted to come get his bride. And I didn't, connect the people in the house with the road and bringing them to the wedding. But I think that's where we are now. We are at the point where we know that Jesus is coming. He is coming to get his bride. And we're at the point where we need to be bringing in our harvest. We need to be shining with the joy and the love and the blessings and the fruitfulness that we have with the people who don't feel that, who don't understand it. And then our light will draw them in. And that will bring the body of Christ together. And that will be what he's waiting on us to do. So anyway, I hope this has significance to some people out there. I hope this, is what I was supposed to do with this. So 2003 to 2020, it's a long time, but I think there's a reason for everything. And now today I found this, and I see it as definitely relevant to today. So God bless you guys. And I hope this is good for someone. Ciao, ciao.